yes, Massive and Crew, it's your boy Busy Bee Science back in the building.
Who's this brother think he is? Cha.
Yeah, anyway, so in this episode, I'm going to cover people sending me tunes that are like absolutely squished. And when I say absolutely squished, yeah, they pump the levels so much on the track that the meters don't move. They just stop like that. And this is not a super common thing, but it's getting a little bit common where guys mix down their own tunes, and the tune is a good track, but they just send it and it just sounds so overblasted and so squash. So today I'm trying to do this video to try and help people to be able to bounce their tracks out a little bit more efficiently, because I think it's important to not to overdo it when you're bouncing your tracks out. You know, don't have it squished. Don't max your level, because all you're going to do is just distort the track. And I know it's really important for some of you guys to have your track sounding super loud out there, and you want your tune to be banging, but you're not going to get good loudness by just flatlining your whole WAV file. You know, the whole idea of a WAV file is so that it has transients. So you see, you know, when the bass comes in, it gets a bit bigger. Where the strings are, it's a little bit lower. And you can use a limiter or a maximizer to kind of squash down the peaks. And the peaks are, say, for example, if this is the screen, imagine this is the WAV here. I'll probably put one up on the screen, right? You've got say like you've got the track playing here, and all of a sudden you've got one that's quite loud, yeah? Obviously it indicates you've got to turn something down on your mix. So it's good to record a little WAV after you bounced out your track, and you're looking for something that looks like this. Now once that's done, obviously you bounce out, I bounce out Renoise at about -3 dB. And what I usually do is I do this thing called gain staging, is where you go into your DAW, you highlight all of your tracks and you turn them all down simultaneously until your master level doesn't go in the red. So you want that to be about roughly 3 to 6 dB. We'll talk more about the exact figures on that later. DAPS will give you some in-depth detail into that. But that is what you've got to do. You've got to turn down all your tracks as a massive group and then put your master back up to 0, so where you had it originally, because you want to bounce out with your master level up. So gain staging, just to clarify, is where you grab all your tracks and you turn them down, so none of the tracks that you've actually got your beats, your breaks, etc. are actually peaking. Yeah, so in Renoise it's roughly about -3. But the most important thing is that you're leaving headroom on your mix, so that your mix is not peaking, and there's room for boosting later on. Don't try to boost your mix when it's coming out your DAW, because that's where the distortion happens. People tend to put limiters and stuff on their master track, and that's where the trouble starts. And you make sure that none of your tracks are peaking, because obviously the more, because you've got your master output and you've got your tracks. Now obviously the more stuff that you put, so if you started off, for example, a break, then you added a bass, then you added a string, then you added a vocal, then you added another break, then a string, vocal, then so on and so forth, effects, right? And we won't get into effects. Effects should be quite low in the mix. We'll get into another video where how loud things should go into the mix. You know, smash that like button if you want to see that. And anyway, blah blah. Right, so the whole idea is that those peaks that you've got, where stuff is in the mix, you like it where it is, but it's a little bit poking out the more, then you probably use a limiter to squish it down a bit. But you don't want to squish the arseholes out of the tune, because remember, the more you squish it, you're losing low frequency, and your track's going to end up sounding like a piece of plastic. Yeah, you want a weighty tune that's heavy, and obviously to get that weight, yeah, you want your WAV to be about up here, not squishing so that the whole flipping tune is running along the top like this, because that's just absolutely squished. Obviously you've got different things to study. You've got RMS and you've got peak, yeah, and I've noticed when tracks come back mastered, the peak looks quite close to the RMS. The RMS and the peak meters are sort of about that much far apart, but it takes great skill to get your track sounding like that with the right compressions, meters, and that is why you have mastering. Now you can do your self mastering. You've got iZotope 9, which has got a mastering assistant, and it's all great, and that does a good job. But if you send it off to a professional mastering studio, yeah, you're going to get a way better job than using, say, an internal, unless you know what you're doing. You know, you can send it to a professional masters like Compound Audio, and they're the guys I always send all my stuff to. He even does mix downs for me sometimes when I get a mix and I just can't get it right, or I want it to sound a certain way, like real polished. I'll send it to Daps, and Daps usually helps me out. So I'm going to get Daps on the phone today, and I'm going to talk with Daps about a few things to remember when you're bouncing out your tracks. So my tips are: reduce all of your WAVs. So sorry, reduce all your tracks. Get hold of all your tracks in your DAW. I do it in Realize. You can do this in Cubase. You can do it in Logic. Highlight all your tracks except the master, and then bring all your tracks down as a group, so you don't lose your balance. Yeah, you don't want to lose your balance, because you know you vibed it and you put this here, you put that there, that's how you like it, and you're sure that's where it goes. Bring all the tracks down, yeah, till the master fader starts to look like it's not peaking. You don't want that toasted, because remember, you toast your track, you're toasting it for life. It's going to always be toasted. And when I say it's always going to be toasted, you won't be able to go back unless you've got some outer space technology like RX7 or something that costs you a fortune to undo that. So you don't want to mess with that, yeah? So get your mix right, lower it down, and then later on you can boost it up using programs like Isotope, mastering. You can even do it in waves. In Adobe Audition, yeah, and I've done a video how to do a quick master in Adobe Audition, where you just literally remove the DC offset, take the high frequency down, take the low frequency down. I'm talking minus 20 hertz, 20 kilohertz, drop them off, and then you use the maximizer to bring up your WAV. And that's a cheap way of doing it, and you can get it, but just don't overdo it and you'll get a nice sound. But if you bring that out distorted, you're going to have problems. Okay guys, so let's give Daps a ring and see what he's saying, and we'll go from there, yeah? And for those of you who don't know Daps and Compound Audio, he has done a lot of legendary work for a lot of people in the game. A lot of drum and bass people send their stuff there. I send a lot of my stuff to get mastered there as well. And mastering is a great thing to do to boost your track, make it sound crisp and make it sound sweet and nice, yeah?